What's up, everybody? It's me, John D. Villarreal. We're getting ready for the show here momentarily. It's going to be a great show. Let's check out the audio, see where we're at.
And does not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Genesis Communications, its management, staff, or advertisers. Welcome to the John Villarreal Show. Now, here's John.
Hey, what's up, everybody? What's going on? It's me, John D. Villarreal, here on Newstalk 1040 AM. What a week! It's getting a little crazy out there in the world, in my opinion. Let me just silence my phone because who knows who might be calling or texting me during the show. I'll try to monitor that. I'm definitely monitoring your comments here live on Newstalk 1040 AM, Greater Tampa Bay area, everywhere from Sarasota, Lakeland, downtown Tampa Bay, downtown St. Pete, Clearwater, all kinds of other places, Wesley Chapel. Everywhere around there. We've a big show today. It is 4:07 right here, East Coast time on November 13th. It's almost holiday time. We're almost into that. There's so much to talk about here. We're also live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And I'm telling you right now, we have a huge show. So much to talk about with the GOP debate. The third debate, maybe third time's a charm. There's a lot that happened there, even though to a large degree at the macro level, like, it doesn't matter. At the same time, like, so much is going on, and we're going to talk about that. Vivek Ramaswamy called out GOP RNC Republican National Committee Chair Ronna McDaniel, and really did that, and also called out Kristen Welker from NBC News to her face. A lot to talk about there. We're going to be joined by Paulette Villarreal. We are also going to be joined in the 5 p.m. hour by John Hussey, retired Major General, in the reserves. We're going to be joined by John Hussey. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff, security, different things. There's a lot that we're going to just, really get into there. Obviously, there's a lot going on in the world, and we're going to continue those conversations, no doubt about it. And it's going to be very, very interesting. And what I want to do right now is bring in Paul F. Villarreal, because there's so much that happened. Let me just quickly set the table on a couple things very quickly. We're going to talk about this debate. And Vivek Ramaswamy went on Patrick Bet-David's podcast afterwards and really extended that play of this takedown, if you will, this calling out, quote unquote, of RNC Chair Ronna McDaniel. Some would say Ronna Romney McDaniel, right? And also Governor Nikki Haley, who's running for president. Those two really got into it very stridently. And then Kristen Welker. Now, Kristen, I don't agree with some of the comments. I don't think she really responded. I saw this one story, opinion piece, if you will, and we may talk about it, like that Kristen Welker was a quote-unquote deer in the headlights. I didn't see that. I thought it was just kind of a smirk and stuff like that. And listen, this isn't specific to Kristen Welker, but I've worked in media. I've worked in professional media for a while. I've worked in TV. I've been on a national TV show, cable, co-host, everything. Definitely been in major market talk radio, now Tampa Bay, before Miami, San Francisco, Sacramento, a lot of different markets, right? Top markets. Started in Salt Lake City. I've done pretty much, I've been in a lot of major markets, okay? And a lot of people in the business are about getting over and about themselves. Okay, I'll just be straight with you right there. There's not many people that are, in my opinion, true journalists or down for the cause, at least now, today, right? And I can think of some on, I gotta be careful. I'm sure I'm gonna make some more friends here. That's the problem with me. I'm a little too honest, in my opinion. But, there's some shows out there on both sides that are kind of, how do I say, very carny, very much, hey, I'll say this today, I'll say that tomorrow, I'll say something else 2 weeks from now, whatever's popular, whatever's in the news, I'll finger in the wind, I'll switch positions, I'll move it around, and I think we've seen some viral clips out there, and listen, there's a lot of things that people can do to get over. Now, listen, if you want to join the program, because you may want to call in this program. This is a program you may want to call in on, in my opinion. 727-587-1040. 727-587-1040. Very easy to remember. Let's do it again. 727-587-1040. We'll put you on. Now, I want to say this. So this whole situation with the debate, first of all, on the one hand, why are we even having a debate? Because we got Trump 50 points ahead. However, I think this debate served a very, very important purpose, and I'm going to get to that, but I'm going to have Paul's take on it first. And we already talked about beforehand, so he may jump the gun on that. That's okay. It doesn't matter. We're also going to talk about the economy. We're at a real inflection point here, and the next year, I've seen a lot of things. You can find a lot of things on YouTube, a lot of content out there. I'm also rocking my Melon app shirt right here. Really appreciate that. And I will say, and now Streamlabs, right? And my live streaming show is sponsored to some degree, I guess, by Streamlabs, a division of Logitech and formerly Melon. I'm really happy with that and appreciate that. And they're great. So I just want to put that out there. But so here's the deal. And we appreciate them, being able to use that technology to bring this show on Newstalk 1040 also to LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And I thought it was apropos to wear this shirt because we're going to talk about so many different things right now. We're going to talk about business, politics, everything like that. We're going to bring it together. This really is, hopefully, I'm not going to, promise too much, but hopefully this is the kind of show where you say, hey, this is why I tune into John D. Villarreal on the John D. Villarreal Show here on Newstalk 1040. And we're going to talk about, a lot of people are saying the market might crash, the real estate market, the car market, for my car peeps out there, the car players out there in the automotive industry, everyone from Brian Benstock, Tim Reher. I mean, you've got, Brett Sutherland, Brett Macy, Gino Walsh, Jerry Raymond, so many different people that I know that are big in the automotive game. A lot of people are saying could get kind of dicey. It could be problematic. We're going to chop that up. What about EV? What about, where's the consumer? Average car, payment right now, if you're doing payments, I think it's somewhere like $700 or $1,000. I see different numbers out there. Whatever it is, it's very, very high. Patrick Bet David and I was just talking about this. I talked to Paul and we were prepping for the show. And after that, I'm like, oh, go to YouTube. Boom, look at this. He talked about, and did a really good job. I got respect to him. And Valuetainment, his brand out there, about a reverse market crash. Went through like Zimbabwe and Turkey, Iran, Argentina, about hyperinflation. And what happens if the Fed or the central banks throttle back on a fiat currency when inflation's out of control? If you're chasing inflation, how problematic it is, how inflation can just run away with you. We're also going to talk about John Hussey and talk about security. We may touch on what's happening in Israel and around the world. We've been covering that. There's also stuff going on with Marvel Entertainment. There's more of this woke situation. And again, think about this. Think about a couple weeks ago or a week or so ago with South Park, with that devastating takedown of Marvel and Disney of into the Panderverse. And then they released the Marvels, and this has been a real failure at this point commercially for Marvel. And there needs to be a rethink. We also had Trump and Tucker Carlson at the Ultimate Fighting Championship. So much to talk about, but let's start right here, right now with Paul and the Republican National Committee debate. Vivek Ramaswamy was really calling out Christian Welker, but it started with Ronna McDaniel about the failure, laying it on the feet at the chair of what happened. I mean, they were talking about, hey, we're gonna, it's Glenn Youngkin, he's up next, and he's gonna be the not Trump. Well, that didn't work out really well. What about Kentucky? What about all those other races? Paul, let's bring you in here right now. What's your take on the results of the election? Number one. Number two, what about Vivek and this debate? Let's talk about it.
Okay, let's start with the election. Of course, we're talking about kind of, I guess you call it midterm or mid whatever election that we just saw last Tuesday, the day after we were on the air. So the Republicans won, kept the governorship in Mississippi. That's Tate, that's down there. They did not win in Kentucky, as you said. That was Daniel Cameron, who was going against Andy Beshear, who is the relatively popular incumbent Democrat there. The race looked like it was going to be a blowout for months, and then it tightened near the end. There was actually a poll that had Cameron up by 1 point, so people were starting to get hopeful. However, Cameron ended up losing by about 5 points. And what a lot of people said afterwards, including President Trump, was that Cameron was too closely aligned with Mitch McConnell.
Sure.
Apparently, he was a Mitch McConnell kind of protege, and supposedly that hurt him locally. That just kind of held back his ability to kind of get over the top. To be honest, though, I wasn't surprised by that. Like I said, he never looked like he was going to win for whatever reason. And I was actually, it actually turned out to be a respectable race to that extent. Now, there was a contest that a lot of people were watching here in Pennsylvania for the Supreme Court justice. And whoever won that was going to have control of the court, essentially, for the next number of years. The Republican lost that race. That was also about a 5-point race. What happened here is the same thing that happened with the Fetterman race. It's the same thing that happened with the 2020 presidential race here. That is, the Democrats are way, way ahead on the mail-in voting game. Like the Justice Carluccio, who was the Republican who lost, basically the mail-in ratio was about 3-1 for the Democrat to her. So when you take that away, she wins. But Democrats are extremely organized and focused on getting the mail-in vote here. And unless Republicans get that together, they're going to struggle with it in 2024 as well. So that's definitely something to keep your eyes on. You already mentioned it, and it's important to restate, the hopes and dreams of the Glenn Youngkin brigade are over. Because there were thoughts that I think the Republicans were going to take over both chambers of the state legislature, and I don't think that happened in either case. Although there might be, I think there's some contest, there's some scrutiny or something up in the air about the Senate, the Virginia Senate, but they didn't take the House, I don't believe. And like the day after the election, Youngkin said through a statement, I'm not running in 2024. Because as you mentioned, there were people who were hoping to launch him late if he did well. Well, he didn't do well. And what we see overall in the election results is if you don't have Trump on the ballot, it's very difficult to get the turnout that you need to win, especially in more rural areas. I think that happened here in Pennsylvania. Maybe it happened in Virginia. And, the Democrats are very good. They're good at the mail-in voting. They're good at getting their turnout right now, which, of course, some of that is mail-in voting. The Republicans don't have the same capability of doing that except when President Trump's on the ballot. That's the only time they're able to kind of really get to the same level.
A couple of things I want to say about this. And also, I think, let me take a side step for a second. I think some small congratulations are in order. I think this is like episode 21 or maybe even 22, but episode 20. But I saw something, and I can't remember who to give credit to this about. I think it's one of these like really rich dudes that like, I can't remember. I don't want to misspeak. I don't want to, I'd love to give credit. I think it's one of these really successful people that post a lot on YouTube. But anyway, like 90, I think it's the stat, I could be wrong, but something like 90% of people who say they're going to start a podcast don't start a podcast. And then 90% of them don't make it to episode 3. And 90% of those that do make it to episode 3, of that 10% of the 10% that started it, only 10% make it to episode 3. And of those, only 10% of those people that made it to episode 3 make it to episode 20. So I don't know what percentage. I can't do the quick math in my head. I'm sure, actually, it's probably not that hard, but I don't feel like doing it on the air. That's pretty good. So we've made it here. Now, of course, I've been doing major market talk radio and stuff like that, but we do have the podcast portion of it. So to some degree, I think congratulations are in order, and I congratulate the audience as well. So that's pretty good. And of course, Paul and the great people at Newstalk 1040 AM. Now, going to what you said, that's a really, really key point. Okay. And what do I mean by this? I take a few things away from this debate, and I might just jump to the headline and then explain it, because I know we're gonna burn through time very quickly here, and we have retired Major General John Hussey coming up on at the 5 o'clock hour, and we have so much other stuff to get to. My take is from the results and the debate, because it's not just the results, it's also the reaction. And that's kind of what Vivek was saying on Patrick Bet-David's, podcast there. It's like, dude, he said, quote, the Republican Party has become a party of losers. A party of losers. And that Chairman McDaniel, you've been chair for a while now, and we've lost and lost and lost and lost. And there's some wins, but there's been a lot of losing. And you'd think that, back to, James Carville and Bill Clinton days, President Clinton days, quote unquote, it's the economy, stupid. Well, you have a situation, this goes to exactly what Paul just says, where a lot of people are feeling a lot of pain, who feel like the economy is bad, who feel like we're on the wrong track. In fact, if you look, I think it's only 14% of people or something like that in a new poll that says that we are on the wrong track here. There's really bad polls for President Biden against President Trump. Now, some people are like, oh, they're just trying to push Biden out of the race. This is more of the David Ignatius, stuff. I mean, who knows? But all I know is the indications are not great. And yet, even though people say that we don't like this economy, we're not happy, we're on the wrong track, Republicans are losing these elections, sometimes substantially. Now, does that go with bad execution, bad support, throwing money into Senator Murkowski's campaign up there in Alaska instead of Virginia or some of these other close places? I mean, there's a lot of different things. Part of it, I think, is what Paul is saying, which is the Democrats' operation and tactics in terms of getting people out to vote and getting the early vote in with the ballots and all that type of stuff. It's far more sophisticated, along with the PR campaign and liberal media and all the other types of things. And that goes to what Vivek is saying. You don't have an answer, Chairwoman McDaniel. You haven't stepped up. We've been losing, and we're not going to be the Washington Generals against the Harlem Globetrotters and lose with the smile. While some of you, and he called out Governor Haley, and other people got called out, with being on the boards of. I mean, someone made the comment. I can't remember who it was, and maybe it was Vivek. I apologize, because I've been consuming all kinds of information prepping for the show. That allegedly Governor Haley, and I don't know, I'm not making this allegation, but reportedly, in my opinion, this is my paraphrase of what I thought I heard of the allegation of the reporting, rather, is that maybe Governor Haley's family wasn't really doing so great. I don't know. Let me excuse me. Let me revise that. That maybe Governor Haley didn't have tons of money, not unlike Governor DeSantis. Maybe didn't have tons of money, like maybe had some, maybe in debt, maybe had a couple $100,000, whatever it is. And now all of a sudden, oh, wow, book deal. Oh, wow, on the board of defense contractors. Oh, wow, millions of dollars. Now they're both millionaires. Now you could say, hey, John, that's great. That's the capitalism. That's the American way. And others might say, wow, instant millionaires. And then you have, that someone was saying, I remember they were kind of, being satirical and poking fun at her. They called her Nikki War Boom Boom Haley. It's like, dude, people don't want to, if you look at the polls, people don't want to send more money to Ukraine. We've spent over $100 billion? How's that going? Now they want to, and it's just, hey, Israel and Ukraine. And again, obviously there's two different situations, a very, very serious situation going on in Israel. I'm not making any commentary on anything about that situation and what we should do as an ally or anything like that. Let's just put that aside. I've talked about that for literally about a month now, and we'll talk about it more later in the show. I'm just talking about the economics of it. And what this goes back to Vivek talking about the quote unquote super PAC puppets. And other people have talked about this too. There's this other person on YouTube, very popular. And I want to give him, some tax something. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. I don't know if I can do this in real time. I'm probably going to have to hit it at the next break. I just found this guy, and he's basically like, look, saying the same thing that a lot of people say. Yes, right here, clear value tax. I don't know how I stumbled on this dude's stuff. He seems like a really smart dude, and he's just breaking it down. He had a scathing video, which basically is like, look, you send the money over there. It goes to defense contractors. It goes to politicians' family members. And basically, the government kind of oppresses people, different governments around the world. It punks out, you have the rich getting richer, the poor getting poor. Patrick Bet-David talked about that with the reverse market crash. They have the Gini coefficient in economics of that kind of, and what percentage of wealth is held by the top people. And it's basically saying like, look, this is empowering the super elite. So this is Hunger Games, kind of, obviously not with the other stuff and the craziness in the Hollywood, whatever like that, but just metaphorically, right? And I'm not making allegations, but basically, like, all this money goes over there, and does it end up in look at what they're saying about Hunter Biden and all kinds of. It's not just, and it's not a left-right thing because it's both sides. All right, they would say this. The Democrats were talking about this with Halliburton and all. I mean, all kinds of. I'm not making any allegations, but believe me, it's been both sides have been talked about this. And again, Vivek's calling out Nikki Haley and Governor Haley and other people on this score. So if you're in that mix and you're making a bunch of money, and basically, as the great Rush Limbaugh, rest in peace, used to say, DC's Hollywood for ugly people. That's his statement, not mine. That do you think a Hollywood actor cares about, like, they're doing roles, they want to make money, they want to get over? Do you think that they live a certain role where they, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, fill in the blank. 20 movies ago, are they still living like that character? No, that was a role. Like it's a means to an end. If that makes sense. I'm saying a lot and trying to say it very quickly, and I hope I'm saying it right. But I have 1 more minute here before the break, and I'll say this before we wrap up, bring in Paul. The point is this. We're at a crucial point right now. Are we going to keep America as we know it? Is business going to be allowed to thrive? Is this about real business, or is this something else? Is this about a command and control economy? Because that's failed everywhere it's been tried. As the great Margaret Thatcher used to say, socialism's great until you run out of other people's money. Because that doesn't work anywhere else. And whether it's green energy or all, and then we're going to get into the economy because that's going to go into rates and my sort of discussion and analysis that's a little different than other people's out there. We're going to talk about that on, soon, later in the show. But this is a very important point. And basically what Vivek did is call them out to their face, the media and Chairwoman McNair and the other candidates. We can't do business as usual. We're at a different point. And I think because he did that, and he did that so clearly, that changes the calculation. That changes how Vivek's going to be perceived. And that's going to impact potentially 2024. So much to talk about that. Stay tuned as I unpack that and more. You do not want to miss this. Hang out 6 more minutes. We'll be back. You're listening to John D. Villarreal radio show here on Newstalk 1040 and live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Thanks so much. I'll see you in 6 minutes. Getting ready to come back on the air here.
You to move, and you have
Probably like 30 to 60 seconds here.
in 298.
What's up, everyone? It's me, John D. Villarreal, here on Newstalk 1040. This is really good. We're talking about a lot of things. We're talking about the GOP debate. We're talking about the election results of last week, and we're also talking about election 2024, along with so many other things that are happening out there. Just there's a lot happening. Joined by Paul at Villarreal. In the 5 o'clock hour, we're going to be joined by retired Major General John Hussey. And I was talking about Vivek Ramaswamy. And, you know, I think people have this a little bit wrong. And first of all, if you want to join the program, you can call in on Newstalk 1040 caller line, which is 727-587-1040. 727-587-1040. Would love to hear from you. Love to hear your take out there. What do you think? Who won the debate? Does it matter? I think Trump won the debate, and I think MAGA won the debate, and I'm going to explain why before I bring Paul right in here, as I want to get his take on this. Here's my bottom line on this. I have to get through this fast because we have so much other stuff to get to. People look at Vivek's polls and say, you know, he's not polling that well. He's just a little bit above Chris Christie. Yeah, you know why? Because Trump consolidated that vote. This is Trump's nomination, like, far and away. And you have Karl Rove over the weekend on the Wall Street Journal. Voters don't want to see Biden versus Trump. Really? Because the polls don't say that at all. Are you crazy? I mean, Bush Republicanism as the dominant force in the GOP is gone. It's over. It's done. And I saw that here in you see the remnants of that in Florida with the Jeb Bush machine and stuff like that. Like, that's done, dude. That is sailed. And to the extent that Governor DeSantis emulates that, it's not a good look. And he's, like I said, the most successful governor, maybe most important governor that Florida's had, at least in my lifetime. But, you know, he's really, I think, squandered a lot of political capital in this run. I don't want to talk about Governor DeSantis. And I think Governor DeSantis over time can bounce back. Maybe not unlike Senator Ted Cruz. Right. And really, you know, remake himself in that and kind of adjust, if you will. Sorry, I'm going to just sip on some orange juice here during the show to keep my voice together. Not 100%, but almost. But here's what I want to say about Vivek, and I want you to listen closely to this because this is really where it's at. There's a lot of people, in my opinion, there's a lot of high-level people that I think know my analysis. Let me put it this way. As I like to say, I'm nobody. I just know a lot of things, know a lot of people. And I've talked to a lot of high-level people. I'm connected to a lot of high-level people. My LinkedIn is absolutely ridiculous, in my opinion. And if you listen to this show, don't be surprised if the talking points in the chattering class move in this direction, if we're 2, 3, 4 weeks ahead of time, sometimes months, sometimes years. And I have a number of examples of that. I'm not going to spend time patting myself on the back. I know I do a good job of that. But listen, player, go back and check it out because that's why I'm the super genius. That's why you have to listen to the show, the John D. Villarreal show, one of my here on News Talk 1040. My different take on the Vivek Ramaswamy thing is this. It's not about where he's at. It's not about him versus Nikki Haley. It's okay. Senator Scott dropped out, so we're gonna consolidate. We just need one anti-Trump candidate. Here's the deal: what Vivek clearly did is show himself to be the second most important, viable MAGA candidate for president beyond President Trump. If lawfare works, if Trump drops out, it's not going to be Nikki Haley. It's going to be Trump. All Trump has to do, and he's already said good things about Vivek, is just endorse Vivek. It's over. It's over. Let me say it again. It's over. With Vivek's moves right there, he has basically, I won't say ensure. That's too strong because there's no absolutes and there's no guarantees in politics. But he effectively closed the door on the lawfare remove Trump strategy, in my opinion. He showed all those other candidates to be particularly the one they're trying to coalesce behind, Nikki Haley, but he also took a shot. The Dick Cheney and 3-inch heels, he said 2 candidates. That was a shot, in my opinion, against Governor Haley and Governor DeSantis. He showed them all to be, as he says, super PAC puppets, quote unquote. So to the extent that Trump is somehow, some way removed, which I do not think is going to happen, I do think it's going to be President Trump. Absolutely. I think President Trump has got the nomination. I think all this is just show and window dressing at this point, particularly a 4th debate. I mean, can we be any more obvious as to, again, I'm not alleging anything. Let me rephrase this. Let me find out how I'm going to say this. The word on the street, right, from the political insider, stuff like that, is that now, is that the anti-Trump, the donor class, whatever, they've moved from DeSantis, they're moving to Nikki Haley. All of a sudden, Governor Haley, all of a sudden, weird. Hey, we need a 4th debate. And who do we have to moderate that 4th debate? Megyn Kelly, Vargas, and Elian, I can't remember her last name. She's cool. I mean, hey, listen, I like them all. That's fine. It's fine. But it's interesting. Why do we even have a 4th debate? And then we have Megyn Kelly, who is famously known for her sort of going after Trump, not only in the debate, but also in the last interview that she had with Trump. So it just feels like an anti-Trump debate set up already, potentially. And, does it seem like there's more support for Nikki Haley? I don't know, dude. I mean, again, I don't get into this whole... Look, I'm all for peace, freedom, love, opportunity, equality for everybody, right? I've said that. We're all individuals, stuff like that. But it just seems like the GOP, the RNC is really like, we had the Univision, co-moderator there. We've had Hugh. I mean, we've just had, I mean, show me any MAGA moderators that we've had. Anyone. We haven't even had Jesse Waters, dude. Nothing against Jesse Waters. I mean, Jesse's cool, but I mean, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And Vivek basically just called that out. And it just feels like that the GOP is, and even if it's Trump, as what Paul's saying, I'm going to bring him right back in here, it's going to be very hard. If you think 2020 is over and it's okay and people don't want Biden and they've seen the track record and Republicans are going to win, there is no red wave. There has been no red wave. If we think we're going to just mail in the ad campaigns and push a button, and drop a bunch of money, it's all going to be, how did that $500 million work for Governor DeSantis? That doesn't work anymore. What Vivek's saying is we don't even know how to win, dude. So even if it's Trump, we have big problems, particularly if they're like not that excited for Trump at the RNC level or something. And allegedly, Chairwoman McDaniel said that Vivek is not going to get a cent, and Vivek's like, hey, it's not her money, and was talking about that. I don't want to get into all the milieu of that because we could spend too much time on that. But that's a big, and then Nikki Haley's calling him scum. What? That's the adult in the room? That's the seasoned veteran Politico? What? And I don't care. I don't get offended by it, but it's not that, it's so impolite. She shouldn't. It's more like, dude, you can't even handle any criticism. And I'm from California. I call everybody dude. Even my wife, she doesn't love it, but it's whatever. I spent most of my life in California. Anyway, the bottom line for me, as I bring in Paul for his comments, is this: We're not ready to win elections right now on the Republican side. We got to change this culture of losing. That's number one. Number two, we've got too many people that just appear to the voters now in the age of the internet where a lot of these things are coming out. And we see this stuff with Hunter Biden and Senator Menendez, and it's not even just a left thing. It's both sides type of thing. It just feels like the elites and the politicians, to some degree, might be selling us out, dude. That's a problem. A lot of people are very, very concerned about that. I mean, we changed the speakers because Matt Gaetz was like, hey, we had a bunch of things that we agreed to. They're not adhering to that. We're tired of the super PAC puppets. We're tired of losing. Vivek is saying that he is now MAGA candidate, the new MAGA candidate. You remove Trump, you're getting Vivek. That's what I'm thinking is the headline of that debate. Agree or disagree, Paul?
I agree. And as we talked about while we were preparing for the show, Steve Bannon, of course, a former Trump strategist, said on that Showtime program, the Circus, which is all about politics and kind of behind the scenes and this type of said, he basically said to, I believe it was John Heilman who was talking to him.
Heilman, Mark McKinnon, and it used to be Mark Halperin, I think too. But Halperin, I think it's, go
who
ahead.
is now with Newsmax, by the way.
Right.
He said, I think Hyman was saying, it's a fleeting moment and all this stuff. And Bannon said, no, MAGA is ascendant. This movement is ascendant. We're getting stronger. We're getting better. And Trump, as radical as some people think that that Trump is actually kind of in the center. And you're going to start seeing more people, even more populist, more to the right, or whatever you want to call it. Vivek, as you correctly pointed out, in my opinion, is somebody who was there to kind of take the Trump mantle. He is somebody who is coming from the non-establishment place. People are tired of that stuff. You can't do that anymore, especially in the age of the internet. People are too sophisticated for that type of thing. It's almost like you and I are both familiar with professional wrestling. Yeah, you call people that are like fans of wrestling marks. And then when people started to be able to look at information about wrestling on the internet, they call them smart marks because now they knew what was going on behind the scenes and what was going to happen in a match and everything. Well, now all the political people that follow things are smart marks. They get to see what happens on the internet. They get to see what people are doing and what they say when nobody's looking. So you can't do the same thing anymore. Vivek, and I know people, because I talk with them every day on Twitter, who are not sold on Vivek. They think they're not sure, and maybe he has ties to this, and maybe he's associated with that, but they love what he's saying about Ronna McDaniel. They love what he's saying about Haley. They love what he's saying about DeSantis. He's coming from the correct angle, and he knows that. And Vivek is a very intelligent, talented, trained lawyer person. He knows how to talk. He knows how to think. He's quick on his feet. And that's the type of person that is coming. That's the talent that you're starting to see coming to the movement. And I think it's only going to get more.
I agree. I think Vivek did a great job, and there's huge ramifications and huge implications, and they can't answer it, dude. And this is it. Like, we're tired of the yacht parties and the insiders, and Vivek was like, Ronna was really chummy with Christian Welker and stuff like that, and this is it. And Tip O'Neill was saying that or something like that. Someone would say that like a while ago that like, the Republicans and the Democrats, they'd hang out, that they'd have their little show fights. It's like you said, professional wrestling. They'd have these little show fights for the camera, and then they'd all hang out, and it's all an insider club. And it's like, dude, like, people are just done, dude, because people are really, really suffering, and it could get really, really bad. And what Patrick Bet-David showed in his reverse crash video with chart after chart is if it gets bad, it can get bad very, very, very quickly. Like hyperinflation, he was showing just like stock markets going up 7x, inflation, just crazy amounts of money, just insane so fast. You don't want to be in that situation. I don't want to be in that situation, and it could just ruin people. very, very rapidly. And then what do you do? And so this is the thing, like, and that goes to, and we'll do some economic analysis. We're going to shove everything into that last segment here after I talk to retired General Major John Hussey on the 5 o'clock hour.
Can I just add one more thing?
Go ahead.
I just want to say this, and you and I have talked about this before, including on the show. One of the things I think that's appealing about Vivek, or that kind of frees him up to be able to do and say what he does, is he's rich.
Right.
The same way that Trump is rich.
Right.
And then what I mean by that is he doesn't need anybody's, he's not a super PAC puppet because he doesn't need to be. Just so the audience understands, Vivek is worth almost $1 billion, and he's not even 40 years old.
Yeah,
so
crazy.
He can say and do what he wants. And that is as ironic as it might seem that the rich guy helps the little people, he can do that because he doesn't have to answer to donors and so forth.
That's a big deal, and that's the thing. I think that a lot of people are starting to get hip to the business of politics, and how. And this is the thing, and this goes back to the whole economic stuff. We can't be in a command economy. We have to have, one of the things that we did here in America, and one of the things that you have to do is you cannot, for the proper role of government in terms of with markets, in my opinion, is to break up monopolies. Monopolies, you have to have competitive forces. If you do not have competitive forces, forget it. It's not going to work. And you have these attempts at command economies, the Build Back Better and the nudges and all the, we're all going green and everything. It's like, dude, it's like there's a proper role of government, but you see it anytime you have there hasn't been a great record of command economies, period. It just doesn't work that well. And so when you have oversized market power, you've got to break that up so that you can continue to have innovation and stuff. And to be able to have the proper amount of innovation, you have to have government getting out of the way so that people can actually compete. The more regulation you have, and again, this goes back to, I'm blanking right now, the All In podcast. It was just on. It was so great. It was by the venture capitalists from Benchmark, and I keep Bill Hurley, and it about saying, like, look, this regulation helps the incumbents. It helps the incumbents. That's what it's all about. And then 51 miles, away from Washington D.C. is why Silicon Valley works so well. And instead, you have so many sellouts, and that's why I really, sort of bristled to some degree on the Miami tech scene, because it was all woke, and it was all like, how do we, it was ushered in to some degree by government, right? Mayor Suarez, stuff like that. And listen, tremendous credit. I think there's a lot of good things that happened there, but there was a lot of people in that mix, in my opinion, and don't get me started on that, because we all know I can go off on that whole scene. It felt like, you had people there that were just sucking up to government, in my opinion. Sucking up to me. It was all a big, like, it just felt very cliquish, very, sucking up to power and money and as a good line from someone, I can't remember exactly who, but it's that, how can I help? It's what do you bring? And then you saw, it's like many of these things in government, particularly on the left, and so, it's both sides for sure. You see people that were big in the movement that were all like, oh, hey, here, I gotta be real careful what I say, getting their friends involved, and here's my kids involved, and here's this and here's that. It's like, dude, like, not only are you like, going super woke with this stuff, but now you're openly like promoting your family. And it's one thing if it's like, you're a private individual, you're an entrepreneur, whatever. But when you're, if there's any potential, and I'm not making any specific, very generic, not alleging anything. If there's any kind of connection to this quasi-governmental agency, what are we doing? What does that look like? What message does that send? And so how competitive is that? So a lot of problems, dude. And surprise, surprise. Excuse me. And again, I'm not excuse me. It's tough because we are a free country. You don't want to put any barriers on any family members. It's not their fault that whatever. But when you see Chelsea Clinton getting a national TV spot and people in journalism, like I've worked my way up, dude, and I started pretty high. Honestly, I started pretty high, right? But I didn't get some NBC role and stuff like that, or some contributorship on NBC, whatever it is, you know, some name major network for what was that contract? 600,000, 900,000, something serious, right? Jenna Bush, same type of thing. Billy Bush of the famous, Entertainment Tonight tape with Trump, and you're seeing, Pelosi's, look how much money they made. Insider, they had the stamp thing, the governor, the House bank stuff that they would do with the check writing. You had insider trading that was legal. It's insane. And so, yeah, when you can start making 7 figures, being on a defense board, I'm not saying there's a quid pro quo or whatever like that, but surprise, surprise. Some of these people are like, hey, let's go to, maybe we need to support this war. Maybe we need defense funding. Maybe we need foreign aid. And other people have clear tax. I was talking about, along with other people, how that's a big, can be potentially a big scam and a boondoggle right there. Where's the audit? Where did the money go? What did we get for that money? There's people on the street that are homeless, dude. There's a border that's open. Things are out of control. And I don't want to just be like, I want my show to be more light than heat. We talked about that, but we have serious problems. What Patrick Bet-David says is what I'm saying. We have to make a decision right now. Vivek is saying it. Trump is saying it. We have to make a decision right now where this country wants to be, because it can go real bad real fast. And one of the things to highlight the economic discussion we're going to have in the last segment is this is not like this is not like other recessions and interest rates and stuff like that. Like, it's not going to snap back. We have supply issues with workforce. We have disruptions now with AI and things like that can disrupt stuff. We also have an energy supply issue. There's a lot of other things that are going. People have dipped into their savings rate. I mean, even if rates go down, I don't know that there's a lot to discuss here, and I'm going to hit it from an angle that I don't think you've heard about. And I'm telling you right now, forget about the left, right. This isn't about who's going to be elected, anything like that. It is about that. I have one more minute here. This is seriously like, what are you going to do? What kind of country we're going to be? What are you going to do for your family? And I mean, there's serious, you need to pay attention. This is no longer like watching Barbie movies and nothing wrong with that. That's fine. Football, like people need to pay attention, because this is a crucial time right now. I don't want to overhype it or be hyperbolic, but this is serious stuff. And unfortunately, as Vivek was saying, the people that we elect and we trust to lead us and help us and have our best interests, they've let us down in large part. We're going to talk about all that and more. Next hour, we're joined by retired Major General John F. Hussey. Can't wait to talk to him. So much to talk about. He's an expert, in my opinion. We're going to talk to him in about 6 minutes. See everyone back around 5:06. You're listening to John D. Villarreal radio show here on Newstalk 1040 AM, Greater Tampa Bay area, and live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Stay tuned. Can you hear me? Yes, I can. We're still live, so I'm going to just get you configured here, and then I'll mute both of us as we come back here. So I kind of remember how to do this. It'll probably take me a few seconds, so hold on.
We're all good.
Okay, I'm set now. I will see you back in about 5 minutes. Okay, we're probably a minute out. Let's see how the audio is looking.
Is indicating some isolated and widely scattered showers coming off the Atlantic west and southwest bound at around 15-20 miles an hour direction, while the western Gulf of Mexico storm system pushes into the northeast Gulf of Mexico by Thursday and chance of developing mainly afternoon showers, a high temperature at around 81.
Can you bring me up a bottle?
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's me, John D. Villarreal. 5 o'clock hour. We're back here, players. It is Monday, and it is fun here on the John D. Villarreal radio show on Newstalk 1040 AM and also live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Actually, we're talking about some not so fun stuff too, right? We're talking about a lot of things that are going on in the world out there. We talked about the whole RNC debate with Paul at Villarreal. We're talking about Vivek Ramaswamy, Rona McDaniel. We're going to talk about the economy. There's a lot of things going on, but there's a lot of things going on in the world too. And we're very pleased to be joined right now by retired Major General John F. Hussey. And he is an expert on security and many things. John, welcome so much to the John D. Villarreal radio show here. And please just kind of introduce yourself to the audience. And thank you for your service, of course.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And to all the veterans that served, we just had Veterans Day on Saturday. So thanks to all of those veterans, but more importantly to their families. I don't think the families get enough accolades and thanks from this nation that stay home, the spouses, the kids, and support mom and dad as they go overseas. And of course, to my Marine friends, 248th birthday on Friday. I started off as a Marine in Paris Island. So Semper Fidelis and happy birthday to all of them. So a lot going on in the world. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself real quick. 38 plus years service. I'm a career reservist. Started off, as I said, in the Marines. I worked in the New York State court system. I deployed 6 times, four into combat zones. I did a tour in Bosnia. I was the deputy commanding general at Guantanamo Bay. Wow. My expertise, if you will, is attention ops. Ran POWs in Desert Storm. Had the Abu Ghraib prison after the scandal. Ran the Abu Ghraib, or disregard the Afghan prison and turned it over to the Afghans, and then the deputy commanding general down at Guantanamo Bay. So I have great familiarity with EPW operations and how to treat enemy prisoners of war. And I will say this, our troops do an outstanding job in a very, very difficult mission. So hats off to all of them and what they do out there.
Absolutely. There's no question about it. I mean, it's unbelievable. And we definitely appreciate that service and great and illustrious service to this country. Give me and again, I mean, I get into all kinds of things here. So if there's things that you don't want to touch on, don't worry about it. It's fine. We'll move on to the next one. Obviously, we have a very serious situation going on in Israel. And Colonel Douglas McGregor has been talking a lot about, what's happening in Ukraine and also what's happening in Israel. Now we've got this close quarters combat fighting, house to house, tunnel to tunnel, street to street in Gaza. Can you kind of illuminate a little bit about what's going on maybe with or that type of scenario there with the IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, and also I guess there's hostage situations too. I mean, what kind of environment is that in terms of combat and negotiations?
Okay, so let's back up a little bit because you bring a good point, right? So I think in the United States, we're more used to the traditional warfare, right? You turn on TV, you watch the movie Patton, you go back to World War II. We see a lot of tanks. We see the Battle of Midway, things of that nature. Well, wars change, and I take this back. For many of you, they remember the movie We Were Soldiers Once and Young with Mel Gibson. This was about Vietnam. So he's in what's known as the Ai Drang Valley. And basically what the North Vietnamese regulars learned from that battle, and it was a Lieutenant Colonel Nguyen Hu An, who basically said, hey, when you're fighting the Americans, you got to get up close and you got to grab them by the belt, which means we want to be real close. This way, they're not going to be able to call in for close air support using their jets, their helicopters. They can't use indirect fire, meaning artillery and things like that. And so warfare has changed and our enemies learn this. So the best analogy that I can give, if I was doing a PowerPoint slide, because I have it right up in front of me, I have Mike Tyson standing over an individual. And if anybody remembers back to the 1980s, and me and my friends used to get pay-per-view and you'd spend like whatever, 50, 60 bucks. And the fight was over in like a minute and 30 seconds. And
Michael Speaks.
Annoyed. Right. You're annoyed that you spent that much money. But think of that, right? Nobody wants to go toe-to-toe with this guy. And that's what conventional warfare is. And nobody wants to fight the United States toe to toe. So it would be like if Tyson was fighting Ali today. Ali's your non-conventional force, right? He's using his brain. He's getting inside your head. He's doing psychological warfare. He's doing the rope-a-dope. He's talking a lot. And he's dancing around Tyson because he knows if I go toe-to-toe with this guy, I won't last. And that's kind of what our enemies are doing now, right? They cannot go toe-to-toe. And so that's what we've kind of seen out of the Middle East, right? It was a very big surprise to me because when I look back at post 9/11 in the United States, every time an anniversary came around, for example, 9/11, July 4th, Super Bowl, there would be messages going out through the whole federal and state system. Might be on the lookout, be careful. So here you had Hamas on the anniversary of the Yom Kippur War, one of the holiest days in the Jewish calendar, and they kind of caught, the Israelis by surprise. And so there's nobody that's going to pay the price more than the senior leaders of the military. They know what happened. But here they are. And so they went in there to provoke. They knew exactly what was going to happen, right? They went in there in a barbaric fashion.
Hamas, you mean?
Hamas, exactly.
Right.
They went into bedrooms, and I'm only going to speak on the facts I know. They killed people in their sleep. I have not, now I'm not saying, I want to be very clear on this, I have not seen it. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. I'm one of these people that want to look at evidence. I haven't seen any decapitated babies. I haven't seen rape. That's not saying it didn't happen. Regardless, they were brutal in what they did. They targeted civilians in their homes, undefended, unable to fight back, and that would be enough. If they went and attacked police stations or military posts, hey, you could say, that's a fair game in the laws of warfare, but they didn't. Okay, so they wanted an overreaction by the Israelis, all right? And that's what, in their mind, they're getting. Because there's something out there right now that it's very hard for a country like the United States or Western democracy, Israel in this case, to win, and that's the information war. Because now they're embedded with the civilian population. And when we look at irregular warfare, right, it's basically a violent struggle among non-state and state actors for the population, the civilian population. And so when we go back even to Vietnam, you'd read, the United States targeted a school. And I get it, we shouldn't be. But if they put a tank in that schoolyard, they're violating the laws of war, and that now becomes a target. Many people don't understand that when a staff is sitting down and they're going over a target list, and that commanding general or the commander decides, I'm going to take that, one of the last people to weigh in is a JAG, a lawyer telling him whether he's authorized under the law of land warfare to hit that target or not. And it's got to meet certain specifications. For example, if you were fighting in Italy, you wouldn't hit the Roman Colosseum because that has historic global value, right? You wouldn't hit a hospital. You wouldn't hit a school. But when we look, and again, I haven't confirmed these reports, but there's a lot of media right now saying that Hamas has weapons and storage in schools. They have command and control facilities in the hospital. And if that's true, I mean, it's difficult for Israel to fight this and take out that structure without collateral damage against civilians. So it becomes difficult. And our enemies know the law of war. When the United States was in Iraq, they were storing weapons in mosques because they knew our rules of engagement precluded us from entering those areas. It's a difficult war to fight.
Yeah, I mean, it almost reminds me of what Elon Musk was saying, and he has a very powerful clip there. He was kind of saying what I was saying, and I think he in some ways he said it better. I mean, he's very, very intelligent, obviously, rich, one of the richest persons in the world, if not the richest, and which is basically for every Hamas person that you. Well, I'm jumping a little bit ahead.
Go ahead.
Which is basically that Hamas is getting what they wanted. They wanted to provoke an over response. And Bill Maher said this, and I said this for the last month. Like I'm super pro Israel and Netanyahu, but be careful, because when you start talking about shutting off power, I mean, you can't shut off power for 2 million people. You can't shut off water and food for 2 million people, et cetera, et cetera. And now it goes to what you're saying, that this has very much been an information war, a PR war. Both sides are doing the videos, the TikToks, the WhatsApp, the YouTube, everything like that. And then so Elon Musk's point was, hey, for every Hamas person that you kill, are you generating 5 more? And it's going to be very interesting. Now, you're the expert, I'm not, but I've heard that if this breaks out into a 2-3 front war and you have Hezbollah or Turkey, who's got one of the strongest militaries over there, or Iran or the other players coming in this is not going to be 1967 again. And barring, nuclear warfare, which, gosh help all of us, it could get very, very bad for Israel. I want a little bit of enlightenment on that aspect of what kind of PR aspect and tactical aspect that Israel, the threat that they're under now, because I think it's very, very serious. And I don't think it's the 1980s anymore where the U.S., we've got our carriers out there, but I mean, we're kind of depleted with Ukraine. And then I kind of want to talk a little bit about what's going on here in America and the dangerous rise of anti-Semitism and what's going on in college campuses. And we can touch on that. And it's really globally. It's not just here. It's definitely globally. And if there's any, I mean, I just want to get to peace, right? But it's a dangerous world out there. So what kind of tactical and strategic situation is Israel under threat right now?
So wow, you really put a bundle into that one, but we'll see if we can take it apart piece by piece. So let's go with the first piece, right? And I've taught this for more than a decade, right? It's the battle of the narratives. And it doesn't matter what the truth is. It only matters what the people believe. Never forget that, okay? So we go back to Nazi Germany and Goebbels, right? The propaganda minister of all time. And so, he had his people believing, the Jews were inferior and stuff. So that we're not going to get into that discussion. But it's no different here, right? You even take social justice in the United States. When we go back and we look at police videos, anybody with a bit of experience in education doesn't want to see 14 seconds of the police officer hitting the individual. What happened in the 5 minutes, right? The whole context. Give me the whole context, because we're not. So I've seen videos, right, when I was teaching courses over in what's called CIMIC in NATO schools, where there were people, and this is going back 15 years, maybe longer, where somebody would come in with a suitcase, take out all the little dolls and put them around the bombing scenes in Gaza, get the pictures, get the videos, and then pack up the suitcases and move to another location. So this is ongoing, right? And this is what the West is up against, because anytime you speak from the Western point of view, right, you put a general up there, police chief or anything, most of the times they can't comment because they have to be accurate. And that's why often you'll hear them say the case is under investigation. It's because they don't have the information, or the information's still not been vetted and cleared. And if they give out erroneous information, they're going to be accused of lying. The people on the street aren't faced with that same burden. So it becomes, what am I hearing out there? What am I seeing? And things of that nature. So that's the first thing is the information war. The second thing, I think we've all got to come to the realization, right? And I teach a class on violence. And so I started off the class by saying, may the Hamas terrorists be met at the gates of hell by Lucifer. But at the same time, we can have empathy and pity for the average Palestinian, right, family that's just trying to get by, okay? They're being used as human shields, right? Nobody wants to turn on their news, right? I'm married. I have 3 children, and watch a father stand there crying or a mother crying because they lost 2 or 3 kids or a grandmother. That rips at the heart of everyone, and that's part of the Hamas plan, right? But the Hamas also knows, hey, I can't go to the desert and fight the IDF one-on-one, because the Tyson Ali analogy is going to come right back. They'll be decimated. The 6-day war, Desert Storm, the 100-hour war, it's unfathomable that they're going to be able to do that. So this is their only way. I unfortunately don't think peace is going to come to that region. I think there are a lot of people that want peace. We look at the strategic reason Hamas did this. It might have been because Israel and a very powerful Sunni country in Saudi Arabia was getting close to peace. And this was a way to break it, because they knew the reaction was going to cause death of Palestinians, and there would be uprising in the Arab street. So they're getting the strategic objective that they wanted to achieve, and that's breaking the power and causing the Arab street to be in hysteria right now. So Netanyahu does have to be careful, because this goes back to the Pottery Barn rule that Colin Powell so eloquently spoke about when President Bush was going to go into Iraq. And that is, if you break it, you own it. You're going to own Social Security, trash removal, the schools, hospitalization, Social Security, the supermarket, how to deliver pharmaceutical products that are going to require the code chain. And Netanyahu and the Israelis don't want to go in and occupy and govern as an occupying force the Gaza Strip, because it's going to be very difficult to do. It's going to ruin their economy. And their folks, the IDF young soldiers, are going to be subject to sniper fire, IDFs, and things of that nature. So they want to achieve their limited operational objective of going in and destroying Hamas and then pulling out. But another interesting point you made that has to be discussed is, and General McChrystal ran into this problem in Afghanistan. And here's a hardcore 4-star American general, special forces his whole life, and he gets it, right? And he had great difficulty relaying this message down to the troops. But for every insurgent I kill, if I don't do it the right way, I'm creating 4 or 5 more, okay? So when you look at those young Palestinian kids, right, 4 and 5 years old, that lost their whole family, where are they going to be in 15 years? They're going to be the new Hamas leadership. Right? There was a talk that one of the Hamas originators of this plan, his name is The Shadow, and I think he lost his eye and his arm. Supposedly he was wounded in an Israeli airstrike some more than a decade ago. So you have to be careful about this, because you're creating new insurgents, and you're not doing it deliberately, but that's right. Because people fight for the same thing Cthulhu said, 2,500 years ago, for honor, fear, and for interests. Okay? And it's a test of human will. And nobody's going to push me around. Nobody's going to do this to my family without me responding, because I'd rather be dead than not be called a man with honor, especially in certain cultures, than to go ahead and revenge the death of my family. And that's what Israel's facing as well.
It's scary, scary times. There's no doubt about it. And how do we you said that you don't think peace is going to, it's probably way more than we can deal with in this segment here, but how do we get to a situation where, what do you think peace looks like? I guess is there any blueprint for that? Do we have? I guess that's more of the diplomats too. But I don't know. I think it's just so challenging. I've been talking about it for a month now. And I have my ideas, but I'd rather get your thoughts at this point.
So peace, when I say peace can't be obtained, it's because you're always going to have 5 or 10%. Hardcore on the right, hardcore on the left. No different than some of the political discourse we're seeing in this nation, right? Years ago, we were used to a Congress that came across, they crossed the aisle, and they kind of spoke to each other, right? And so, we're almost at a bad divorce now. Now, multiply that with violence in the Middle East. So it's going to be very difficult to achieve peace, right? And let's just call it what it is. And a lot of people refuse, right? The main octopus with his fingers all over this is Iran. And a lot of people don't realize this, but the war on terror didn't start on September 11th. It started back in November 1979 with Khomeini coming back in and the hostages being taken. And we haven't been at peace, okay? They've taken out embassies. They hit the Marines, right? We lost 243 service members on October 23rd, 1983. And it's just been a slew of items, including, hitting our forces today. We're going to have to deal with Iran. The West is going to have to come together, okay? And we're going to have to deliver some punishment, because sanctions aren't working, right? Political pressure's not working. And it's going to come to the resolve that sooner or later, it may have to be forced. But then, you look at the other side, Code, because I want your audience to understand this. There is a demographic now in Iran that's very young. Most of them were not even born in 1979. And I saw a briefing one day, and they said, "Is this Iran?" And they showed a woman in a burqa, that garb that covers the whole body, the black garb, and she had a Quran in her hand. And then the second slide said, "Or is this Iran?" And it was young women in an underground club dancing in fishnet stockings on the table. So they crave the West, but you have to be careful and understand the culture. And the culture of the Shia is kind of like victimization. And if you come after them and you try to antagonize them and you attack the country, the fear is they'll rally around the government and the mullahs and they'll fight the U.S. off. So a lot of people say, just let it go. Like years ago, Barack Obama was chastised in the media for not going in and supporting the revolution. But he's probably getting individuals. Yeah. Right. He's getting individuals right now that are saying back off. 60 Minutes just covered a piece last night why Iran's trying to do assassinations in the U.S. because there's a women's movement there taking off the hijab. So they're fighting back. But the question is, if you go there and you strike them with force, then do you rally the public around that government, or do you kind of let it happen naturally? And maybe in 10, 15 years, the mullahs and the strict Islamists will be gone. And then we'll deal more with a Western government that we can face. So that's the dilemma. How long do you allow this pariah nation to continue supporting insurgents, supporting terrorism globally, but particularly in the Middle East? Or do you wait and hopefully it evolves and changes based on natural progression within its own borders?
Well, I
And
am
that's
definitely. It is
that
definitely
we-
very tricky, and I'm a medium to long-term optimist about just about everything. And we have about 4 minutes left, or maybe 3 minutes left here. Very, very briefly and carefully, please.
Please.
This whole thing. That's just about cautious nature. This whole thing on no commentary on you at all, but I mean this whole thing about what this has exposed is a lot of tensions in the left and the woke movement. There's a lot of people that I know. I have lots of Jewish friends and colleagues and acquaintances and stuff like that, particularly that are alumni or at Ivy League or elite institutions that are like, whoa, this has gone too far here. Now you have Bill Ackman, you have other people that have been saying some things, Do you think that, to what extent now, with where America is and open borders and whatever, that there's a security issue here for Americans or Jewish Americans, how do we? Obviously we have First Amendment, free speech, everything like that. Like how do you navigate some of that? That's maybe a tricky question. And also I want to, please let people know how they can find more about you and what you've got going on right now as we close out.
I saw a couple of things. So first of all, you go back to ancient times. Sun Tzu said, the acme of all skill, right, is to subdue the enemy without ever having to fight. So if I was advising the Palestinians, right, and the Arab world back in the 1960s, I'd say, stop. Well, what are you going to war for? Every time you fight Israel, they decimate you. What are you doing? Here's what you need to do. You need to start having your populations migrate to the United States, go to law school, become successful in business, run for Congress, and then you'll see a change. Now, I came from New York. Predominantly, I came from a Jewish neighborhood. And if you had told me 20 years ago we'd be seeing what we're seeing now, I would have told you were wrong. Somehow, this migration pattern all over the world, okay, in globalization, what we call globalization, we're seeing the migrants now come out of the Middle East, and they're starting to change. I mean, I was very upset to see on Veterans Day, they were pulling down flags in New York and putting up PLO flags. I mean, there's been a lot of immigrant groups that have come here from Poland, Lithuania, Russia, France. I never saw anything like that. If you want to assimilate in here to this country, we welcome you. We want you to come here and be successful, but you're going to have to abide by our rules and our laws and get along. All right. It's troubling when I see what's going on. And I think the best broadcast I saw was somebody asked college students, are you for Hamas? And the young women said yes. Okay, so you're for women being stoned to death for adultery? You're for wearing a burqa. You're against flying kites and listening to music. So the problem is these young folks are not educated. So I like Cy Sims. He used to run a commercial years ago. The best consumer is an educated consumer. I wish these people will get educated and understand what it's all about and look at it and not have their hearts tugged based on an information operations war, but really understand what's going on. And what they're doing now is doing a disservice to the peace process at all. They are falling into the psychological trap that Hamas exactly wants by becoming part of the Arab Street and putting pressure on the American elected officials to back off. And we can't have this because we could be a victim here in the West as well. We've experienced it and we may experience it again. Please.
We're going to a break here very, very, very quickly. Where can people find out more about you?
I don't have a website. If you want to eat, I'm writing a book right now about some of my experiences. If you really want to get in touch with me, I'm on LinkedIn, John Hussey. Look me up. We can have a conversation. And of course, if I can help and mentor anybody, I will. That's what we're all about, right? Making America a better country and helping grow our youth.
Appreciate you. Thanks you so much. And thank you for your service. Major General John Hussey, retired. And that's really, really great. We're listening to John D. Villarreal Radio Show here on Newstalk 1040 AM. Be right back for the last segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, John. Fantastic. Really appreciate it.
John, thank you for your professionalism. Thanks for the time.
Yes,
Have a nice
sir. Yes, sir.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Newstalk1040am.com.
Getting ready for the last segment here. Okay, what's up, everybody? It's me, John D. Villarreal. The last segment here on Monday, November 13th, 5:35 p.m. here on Newstalk 1040 AM. It's unbelievable. We are talking all over the greater Tampa Bay area here. If you want to join the program, you can call in 727-587-1040, 727-587-1040, and we're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. So much to talk about. I want to thank retired General Major John F. Hussey for his expertise and his service to this country. And we're going to bring in Paul Villarreal here to talk about that. We have a lot to talk about in this last segment. I want to cover the economy. I want to cover a lot of different things. We still have a lot more to talk about: politics, polls, everything. There's so much going on. We want to talk also about the UFC. A lot to talk about. But I want to say this, a couple things here to sort of round things out before I forget and bring in Paul. Number one, I have, I'm all about, and I'm not saying anyone, I'm just restating it just to be clear. I'm for peace, freedom, love, opportunity, equality for everybody, right? I have lots of Jewish friends. I have lots of Palestinian friends. Heck, some people would even consider my wife Palestinian Arabic, even though she's actually Aramaic, and it's very complicated. As I said this before many times on the show, that's where and I probably get this wrong, and I apologize ahead of time, but I think that's where the Jewish folks and the Arabic folks come from. They call them Assyrian as well, and I think like about a third or a half of her family are Jewish outside Tel Aviv, and the rest are Arabic Christian up in Nazareth area, predominantly there. But I don't want to get distracted on that. But I'm just saying, like we definitely feel for the Palestinians and the Palestinian civilians. And this is the thing. This is the other challenging thing. Everybody wants to feel like if Israel's going to be, Israel is a democracy, whatever. If it wants to be, that shining example, let me pause that. I'm just going to separate that. I'm going to separate statement. Everybody needs to feel like they're representing the government. Everybody needs to feel like they have the same, on the same level, same rights, everything like that. That's a super complicated situation. We've been talking about it for a month, and I appreciate having retired Major General John Hussey on here to get his perspective. But what I wanted to say, and this really equates to so many things on cancel culture and the woke movement and everything like that. And Paul can talk about this, but I want to get his comments. I'm sure he's going to have a lot of comments on a lot of things. We're going to have to move very quickly, so just stay tuned, audience. We're going to have to move very quickly here. And I thought about this, and it's very obvious and almost axiomatic. But the reason why cancel culture works, and is such a tool for power, and a powerful tool of the left and the woke movement, is because people want to be fair. In America and in the West, they wanted everybody treated the same. They wanted everybody treated correctly. So whether it's the Me Too movement or Black Lives Matter or fill in the blank, the only reason why this woke cancel culture works is because people intrinsically want to be fair and seen as fair. So nobody wants to be called any of the pejoratives that we all know can be thrown out there. Sexist, and you keep going from there. Nobody wants to be called that. No organization wants to support that or have people working there. So the reason why these things are so powerful and these accusations are so powerful is because of our values, is because we want to be seen as fair, is because we believe in equality and liberty and opportunity and all these things for everybody. That's why it is a tool for power and a powerful tool. Paul Villarreal, I'm bringing you in here. Do you agree with that? And what are your comments on the last segment, if you have any? And let's get right back to the discussion. There's a lot to talk about here in the last segment.
Yeah, I think that is a good statement. I agree. I thought the Major General was great. I love the analogy to Mike Tyson. Something certainly you and I can appreciate as we grew up in the 80s as well. And we remember the very short Mike Tyson fights and people who spent all the money on pay-per-views and got...
Yeah, you get ready. It's Saturday night. Here you go. You got the friends over. You get everybody. The pizzas are out. And if you, and player, if you went to the bathroom, you got a slice of pizza, it's over.
Yeah, like you said, the Michael Spinks fight, which was like 90 seconds.
90 seconds.
Look, it is a really complicated thing. And unfortunately, as Major General pointed out, the Hamas knows what they're doing. They understand the PR aspect of this. There's a reason why their military facilities are put around or under hospitals and in residential areas. That's something you have to deal with. They're not going to make it easy. They're going to make it complicated. And you, as it being Israel, you got to be really careful of that, because if you don't do it right, then, as you both mentioned, first of all, the international pressure comes down on you for that, and also you can create more people who want to fight against you, and so you do have to be really cautious of that. So I thought the Major General was great. He certainly knows what he's talking about, and he's got the experience, and he's on point.
Okay, so let's talk about bring us up to speed. I know you're deep into this, and you're getting more followers on Twitter and more people. I can't wait. Hopefully, we're going to have Paul down here soon enough and do the reveal, and you'll come out from the cloak of anonymity, and people will see that once again the Villarreal brothers know what's what, in our opinion, when it comes to politics, stuff like that. You've got some huge people following you. I don't know if you want to say who is. You're still going under the anonymity thing. But what's going on with that? What's going on with 2024? Where are we at with this race right now? Trump and Kid Rock and Tucker Carlson showed up at the UFC event, packed house, everybody exploded. I think that was Madison Square Gardens. A lot of activity there. What do you think about Vivek? Where are we at with everything?
Yeah, it was Trump. The UFC event was at Madison Square Garden, UFC 295, which was supposed to be Jones versus Miocic. But, of course, Jones got hurt, so that wasn't what it was. It was still a really good card. Yeah, look, Twitter's going great for me. I mean, I have been able to accumulate a number of key followers. And just, look, what's great about Twitter, at least under Elon, X is what it really is called now, is
yes, X.
It's mostly a meritocracy. I mean, if people like what you say, if they find your stuff, they follow you, even though nobody knows who I am. I'm using an anonymous handle. I don't have a picture, so on and so forth. But again, if you can communicate stuff that makes sense to them, they'll follow you. So it is going well, and I'm happy about that. And yeah, we're looking forward to down the line, kind of revealing and building upon that. Where things are at is a new poll came out today by a group called Stack Data. This was published in association in collaboration with Politico.
Okay.
And what they did was they did a national poll, and they also did a state-by-state poll. And what they found was Biden is leading Trump by 1 point nationally, 49-48. However, in Electoral College, Trump is up 292 to 246. Now, you need 270 electoral votes to win, so obviously in that scenario, Trump wins. The states that Trump would take in that scenario, of course, the obvious states like Alabama or something, but the swing states he would take right now are Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Florida, Ohio, Iowa. So obviously that's really good news for President Trump. The poll also ran a simulation of Trump versus Kamala Harris and Trump versus Gavin Newsom. We know there's been a lot of talk about Gavin Newsom. Trump versus Harris was even more decisive of a victory for Trump, and Trump versus Newsom was even more decisive than Trump versus Harris. So that's kind of where we're at. Look, you and I have talked about this. I've never been sold on Governor Newsom.
Right.
Even though I respect him,
Right.
he's a good politician. He looks good. He talks well. Those types of things. The problem is he's from a very liberal state, and he's got a record. And his poll numbers are starting to go down in California, which isn't a great sign. Now, of course, you might be able to package him up and kind of keep people away from that for 9 months. I can guarantee you this. When the people here in Pennsylvania found out about Gavin Newsom's record, it's just not going to work. Right now, the number in Pennsylvania from these things is Trump 49, Biden 47, and it's Trump 50, Newsom 46. So 2 more points of advantage for Biden as compared with Newsom. I think as the more you found out about Newsom, that's going to get more lopsided.
So
now,
there's 3
of
different.
course,
Sorry, not to interrupt you, but we have a lot of ground to cover very shortly, and I want to focus the conversation. We have 3 major intangibles that I think are going on here for 2024. Number 1 is goes to Vivek in his criticism of Ron McDaniel and things that Trump has said as well, whatever. Can the GOP match the Democrats' advantage with early voting, ballot harvesting, and the PR machine and all that type of stuff, number 1. Number 2 is, to what extent, who has the bigger inter-party fight? Is it the GOP with the Mitch McConnells versus Trump and MAGA and Vivek versus Haley and all that? Or is it the left, where you have the wokesters versus the centrists? And people like Bill Maher and Barry Weiss and James Carville versus the Tlaibs and all that type of stuff. And have we seen that now hit a different level with what's happened in Israel and then here in America with Cornell and all that type of stuff? And the third part is the economy, right? And we'll talk about that in the last 10 minutes, because that's a super crucial point. I promised I'd get to that, so I want to get to that. What do you make of those things? How do you mix that up?
I think that it's the Israel situation has caused a real conflict for Biden within his own party. As you mentioned, Tlaib, Omar, others. There's definitely the younger generation of Democrats is much more skeptical of Israel than the old guard is, in my opinion. So that's a challenge for him. In fact, part of what some of these people that are marching are telling him is, you're going to lose votes on this, Mr. Biden, if you do this, unless you do things that what we want you to do. That's a real issue. And also, it looks like the stage is being set for kind of a pullback in Ukraine. Now, as we all know, people have Ukraine flags up. They have Ukraine flags in their Twitter bios and all this stuff. How's that going to go over? Is that going to work?
Timeout,
Does
Paul.
it look like you're letting...
We got a caller coming in here. We've got Robert. We also have City of Truth here. Says, what's up here online. We've got Robert. Robert's called in the line at 727-587-1040. Robert, you're on the air with John D. Villarreal. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, John Villarreal? And shout out to you and, your platform and your show. I've been following you for years. You've always had really good conversations on, current events and stuff. So I want to give you a quick shout out.
Thank you.
First. Right, yeah.
What's on your mind? What do you think about these current issues? Are you following the 2024 race? Do you feel like it's going to be Trump, or you think it's going to be Biden?
I am, John, and as a as a conservative, who kind of leans more towards the libertarian side, I was really really impressed with Vivek Ramaswamy, as well as many other conservatives, that I know as well. And I think that he has a really good plan for this country. I think he has a really good vision, things like getting rid of the politicized bureaucracy, getting rid of the FBI, getting rid of the Department of Education, allowing states to go ahead and innovate when it comes to stuff like education. Because there was one time in this country, we didn't have standardized tests and stuff, these federal standards for education. And at that time, the teachers were actually very good, and the students actually performed better. We produced more doctors back in the 60s, and 70s than we do today. You know what I mean? So it's like, what happened to our education system? But I'll go ahead and start with that.
Now, powerful comments. There's no doubt about it. A lot of times people are saying that they teach to the test right here. And I got to be very careful because my daughter's in school right now. We're trying to get her into a super school. I'll talk about that another day. We have 10 minutes. I want to cover a lot of ground. But I'll say that, like, I remember the homework that I had when I was a kid. And obviously I turned out pretty smart and whatever. And it was nothing close to what they have now. And now, like, I feel like my wife and I were doing so much homework with her. And it's really changed. But I want to take that as a jump off point to this, because Paul and I were talking, we'll talk here again in a second. How do you feel about the economy? Do you feel like it's getting tough and rough? I mean, someone just made a comment that hey, the economic numbers might be good in the government, but it's because I'm now working 3 jobs just to survive. I mean, do you feel like the economy is good, bad, getting better, getting worse? What do you hear and feel out there?
Well, here's my thing, John. The economy, and I'm a trucker, by the way, owner-operator, a truck driver.
Huge.
So the trucking industry has been in a recession since early this year. They're not calling a recession, officially, but us at the trucking industry, us truckers, we know where the freight's going, we know where the money is going and where the money is to be made, and we know that we've had a recession in this country since early this year. Now, as far as like what's going on overall, we're going to continue to see inflation. We're going to continue to see, especially next year, we're going to continue to see higher, fuel prices, higher gas prices. This Biden administration, they're not letting up on the oil industry or taxes or anything like that. They're not trying to do anything to increase, make it easy, to increase production. So we're going to see increase.
We may have lost you there, Robert.
We're going to see.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry about that. We're going to see increased fuel costs. We're going to see increased food costs. I heard India just had they've stopped exporting like a lot of rice. India is one of the biggest world producers of rice. So, you can expect the price of grain, price of rice to go up, but who knows? Maybe that'll provide an opportunity for American farmers. Maybe more American farmers can start producing more of the food that we, we're already trying to wean ourselves off of China. Maybe we can do that in the food industry as well. It might present an opportunity, but yeah, in terms of you're going to see more of a tightening and squeezing of
the consumer
supply lines when
I agree with you. I think it's a supply chain type of driven inflation here predominantly. We appreciate you out there. Last question very quickly. It sounds like, are you a Trump voter first? And if it's not Trump, are you going for Vivek? I just want to get your take on that real quick.
Okay, now here's the thing, John. I really, really like Trump. I love Trump. I love what he did for this country. One of the best economies we've ever had. We had damn near we went damn near back to 1990s gasoline with like $1.80 a gallon. You know what I mean? And the thing is that
I feel a caveat coming. I feel the other shoe's going to drop. Go ahead.
So the thing was with Vivek. I love Vivek. Okay, Vivek is a great guy, but you know what, John, and I don't know if you may agree with me on this. I would have I feel like Vivek is like a young guy. He needs to do something else first. He needs to go be like a governor first, or I know he's from Ohio. Why not run for governor of Ohio first? Why not try that out first? I feel like when you talk about the presidency is a very complicated thing, and to just jump right into the presidency, I don't know about that. I don't know if Vivek is realistically electable right now. To be honest, I think DeSantis is more electable than Vivek, because at least DeSantis has a governorship under his belt. He's been a pretty good governor of Florida.
He's been a great governor.
Military experience. He has the credentials. Vivek's like a business guy, which I love that. I love the entrepreneurs and the business people and stuff. But I don't think he's ready, John. I would love to see him be a governor first.
Robert, I appreciate you out there. You keep on trucking. Definitely appreciate you. Thanks for calling in the John D. Villarreal radio show here on News Talk 1040. Okay, Paul, let's bring you back in here very quickly. We have 4 minutes right here. I promised the people I would drop some of this economic knowledge right here, or my take on it, and that is this. We talked about it off the air, and we're gonna have to handle it next week, next show. I may even do a special broadcast in between, whatever. Here's the deal. Some people are saying that the rates are going to drop next year, somewhere around, they're predicting June to September. I can see that. People are talking about it's election year and hey, there's many different theories, right? Whether it's the election year, whether it's, hey, you can't service the debt at these interest rates, or maybe the economy is going to, inflation, whatever. I think that, and then some people think, and this is Patrick Bet-David, reverse crash, isn't that? That's part of that too. I think here's the difference. And who knows? Because there's so many different things going in. First of all, if you print enough money, of course, right? But I don't think we're going to have the physical stimulus that you saw post-COVID, number one. Number two, you've had tremendous demand destruction. You have people that don't want to work, right? And I'm not saying, I'm not punking them out, but remote jobs, things like that, those things are in the mix. You have baby boomers retiring. You also have businesses that have been just destroyed, whether it's hospitality, restaurant, stuff. Things have just been shut down. You can't immediately turn these things on. Also, people are dipping in their savings rate. The savings rate has plummeted. There's a lot of pressure on. You've got defaults coming, student loans coming. I think we're in a different spot right now. And I think the danger of, the economy really just, really suffering is more than the hyperinflation thing here. Like, yes, I think there's some demand waiting to jump into the housing market because it's frozen, but I think was way more supply ready to come on. Paul, your quick take on that.
Look, I think the economy is kind of again, there's a surface level where it seems like maybe it's okay, but underneath that, I don't think it's okay at all. I know one of the things that I had prepared for today was something from Peter St. Onge, who is a professor and economist for Heritage. He had a newsletter he put out, said, quote, a headline, "Our coming zombie economy." In other words, we're not doing great. And people would think that a soft landing is coming. I just don't see that's going to happen.
You know what? That's the great point. That's the point I want to make. I could see it going, more inflation, and I could see the economy crashing. I'm always seeing deflationary signs in different aspects here. I'm seeing rents coming down. I'm seeing housing prices coming down. I'm seeing different deflationary signs. But I agree. That's what I agree with most of anything. I don't believe in a soft landing. I think that it's going to be herky-jerky. I think it's going to be, I think that they've made some big policy mistakes here, and I think they're kind of running out of options. The political appetite for more stimulus and all this type of stuff, like they railed on the student loan thing here, and people are going to have to start paying that. That's going to really, really hurt the young people that don't have money or don't have jobs. And people are like, oh, it's a bailout, and you made okay, fine. But they didn't say that about PPP. They didn't say that about the mortgage interest deduction for homes. They didn't say that about, bailing out businesses or bailing out GM or bailing out this. There wasn't that big clamor on that. And I don't want to get into the back and forth on that. What I'm just saying is the public appetite for more stimulus is not there. And so pain, I think, is coming, because at the end of the day, you need more people working more effectively. You got to get back to, what did I say before? What's been the themes? Reality's hitting. This is the year reality hits, and next year is the revenge of reality, in my opinion. Hey, there's so much to cover. We did it. We made it. We pretty much did it all. Thank you so much for tuning in, John D. Villarreal radio show here on Newstalk 1040 AM and live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Have a great week. Stay blessed. Stay safe. Treat each other well. Treat yourself well. And I will see you next week. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Major General John Hussey. Thank you, team at Newstalk 1040. See you next week.